ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रवदाततं भुवि वदन्ति भूरिदा जनाः. Your words are like nectar, bring life to scorched souls. They are praised by poets and remove all sin. They are auspicious to hear, wonderful and exalted. Those who spread these words throughout the world are truly giving souls. Welcome, everyone, to our class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We're on chapter 33. This is the chapter entitled With Various Devotees. It started on page 643, Sunday, October 26, 1884, and it's afternoon. Many devotees were present in the master's room. Among them were Manu Mohan, Mahimacharan, and M. Later, Ishan and Hazra came. And so we saw last week, most of the conversation is taking place between the Mahimacharan and Sri Ramakrishna. So now we're starting on page 649, around the middle of the page. Sri Ramakrishna is talking to Mahimacharan and the others. We have to remember this. Mahimacharan, he thought of himself as a jnani. Whether he was really a person of any realization or not, he had a little bit of pride that he was following this path of the difficult path of jnana yoga, and Sri Ramakrishna liked him and encourages him. We see, but also tries to soften him a little bit. Yeah, he was a little bit. Not in favor of emotional things, devotional things, and everything, and he liked this as a path of knowledge. So Sri Ramakrishna, we see in all of his teachings that he had two principles. One, he didn't like to disturb anybody's spiritual mood. If they like the path of knowledge, it's good. If they like path of devotion, good. So he would encourage people along their path. But the second thing was that he didn't like one-sidedness, and he didn't like any type of fanaticism. So he would try to gently correct them if he saw they were going too far in one direction or the other. So these two things were there. Whether a man should be a householder or a monk depends on the will of Rama. He had just finished telling that story by the will of Rama. Now, we've had several conversations lately about this prarabdha karma. And according to this prarabdha karma, certain events in one's life, certain details of one's life, certain circumstances are determined by what one has done in the previous lifetime. Now, we don't know if this refers to everything, if it refers to a few big things, if it refers to some things that don't have any other logical explanation. We don't know much about these things exactly. But I think this question of whether one becomes a householder or a monk, here it says depends on the will of Rama. The will of Rama and prarabdha karma. I don't take these as two really different things. It really means that it's not entirely up to us in our hands in this lifetime what path we will end up following. Whether we say it in the will of Rama, whether we say it was my karma, whether we say it was not meant to be, whatever. That this seems to be one of those things. So one thing that I find funny throughout the gospel and in many of the conversations about householders and monks, if somebody from a different planet started to read these things, they would probably think that 50% of the world is monks and 50% is householders. And you can decide some will become monks. Yeah, what is the percentage of those who become monks in this world? A very tiny, tiny percentage. But with Sri Ramakrishna, if we look among his disciples and devotees, we see that a good number Still, it won't be anything near a majority, but a good number took to monastic life. So, uh, whether one marries, who one marries, length of life, all of these things can be explained in terms of this prarabdha karma. So we see that among Sri Ramakrishna's disciples, there were some who had a tremendous desire to lead a monastic life, and it just didn't work out for them. And Sri Ramakrishna didn't encourage them always. Uh, one of the great monks of our order, Swami Atmajnanananda, he was very well known for being able to size up prospective monks. And very often, if there was any question, that some of the senior sadhus would send somebody who came to join to Swami Atmajnanananda. And he would, just by talking to them, by looking at them, by seeing maybe certain signs, maybe just some intuition that he had, that very often he would be able to say, no, this isn't the life for you, or would encourage them to join. So why some come with not much interest in joining and they never leave? Others have some interest, they don't stay. Yeah, we don't really know. Our Swami Sarvadevanandaji, he simply went to Bellarmud one night. He used to volunteer. He went one time and they said, yeah, spend the night here. And then they say, don't go home. He said, but how can I not go home? Oh, why not? Here comes. So they encouraged him very much. So he said, okay. Then he joined. So how did these things happen? Yeah, Wildarama, Thakur's grace, our own karma, our own samskaras that impel us in that direction. There's something behind it. Something behind, even in the Christian monastic tradition, there's this idea of a calling, that people are called to this type of life, and not simply that they choose it. So, really, when we think about the events of our lifetime, that all seem to be choices that we've made, we wonder how much were free choices, not exactly predetermined things, but how much could have been predicted in terms of our own tendencies and in terms of events, circumstances, and everything. Yeah. So sometimes people ask me why I decided to become a monk. I said, I don't know that I can really claim that I decided exactly, but circumstances seem to have conspired to lead me to this lifetime. So this is what Thakur seems to be saying. Depends on the will of Rama. It's not entirely up to us. That we may want it, but it's not for us. We may not even be thinking about it. Circumstances will take us in that direction somehow. He's talking to the Mahimacharan, and he was not a young man. There was no real question of him becoming a monk at that time, but this follows from this conversation about the will of Rama. Whether a man should be a householder or a monk depends on the will of Rama. Surrender everything to God and do your duties in the world. So this also, not just whether a householder, but what are the circumstances of our life as a householder? What are the duties and obligations that fall to us? In traditional Indian society, Hindu society, we can say, the caste, the family that you're born into and the caste that you belong to, and perhaps even for the boy, the father's profession exactly, these determined very much what one would do in life. And there wasn't too much room to decide, even in this country. For many, many years, the son did what the father did. If he was an electrician who belonged to Electricians Guild or carpenter, the son was trained that way, and he did it. There wasn't much question about it. So these are things that represent kartavya dharma, swadharma, the obligations and duties that fall to us that we don't necessarily choose ourselves. Circumstances of life. There are just circumstances of life. We can't explain it always. karma, will of Rama, we can't explain always, but we're presented with these things. So it says, surrendered everything to God, do your duties in the world. What else can you do? Yeah, we can't fight against these things. We find ourselves in certain circumstances that we simply have to accept. Otherwise, we're fighting against the world and events that take place and everything, and frustrated and everything. This acceptance is a very wonderful thing in spiritual life, in life in general. A clerk was once sent to a prison. After the prison term was over, he was released. Now, what do you think he did? Cut capers or do his old clerical work? So, this prarabdha karma, if we look at it from that point of view, we're reading in this Panchadashi that even after God realization, that one may find oneself still with those duties to perform in the world. Only that won't leave any, there won't be any bondage to it at that point. If the householder becomes a Jivan Mukta, then he can easily live in the world if he likes. Now, this question of Jivan Mukta, this doubt comes into the mind. It came into my mind many times that if God realization means samadhi, if we have to attain this state of samadhi to really have this highest type of realization, and if the body only lasts 21 days after that, where's scope for this Jivan Mukti idea? This Jivan Mukti idea is that we attain liberation, but the body continues to live as long as we have karma left. Prarabdha karma. We live in the world as a free soul. So we have to modify this idea a little bit, that for Sri Ramakrishna, there are different paths by which one can attain liberation. The path of devotion will not necessarily put us in that same type of nirvikalpa samadhi, but can free us from the bonds of the world and can lead to the final liberation. So there is definitely scope. Sri Ramakrishna talks about it very often. It's not just the Ishvara Kotis. It's not just these special souls. There are free souls in this world that have some illumination. Maybe not go into this nirvikalpa samadhi for long periods of time and come down. That's a rare thing. But still, who can live in this world as free souls. A man who has attained knowledge does not differentiate between this place and that place. So the point is that they have perfect detachment. They can even observe that the body is now performing action. I'm not doing anything. I'm just the witness of everything. That I'm not attached to any of this. That I'm simply the observer. I don't feel any deep connection with his body. His body is the vehicle that I happen to be going through life in, but whatever happens to it is secondary to my state of mind. I recognize myself as free. So wherever one is, it makes no difference. This is living in the world like the dried leaf. Wherever it's blown, it's okay. Or like the kitten. Wherever the mother cat puts it, it's okay. Doesn't matter. All places are the same to him. He who thinks of that place also thinks of this place. So whether we're in some place that we consider very enjoyable or some other situation that's very difficult, that if we have attained that state where we know that our real being transcends everything, then the mind won't be affected. Will it not be affected at all? It'll be affected somewhat, of course. If we see loved ones suffering and everything, then of course. But we won't be shaken. We won't lose our center of gravity. We'll have that pillar to hold on to. We won't fall from anything. When I first met Keshab at Jai Gopal's garden house, I remarked, he is the only one who has dropped his tail. This, of course, was a very, very significant event when he met Keshab for the first time. And Keshab is the only one who appreciated him at that time. And it began a very, very beautiful, sweet relationship between Sri Ramakrishna and Keshab Chandra Sen. the leader, of course, of the Brahmo Samaj. I remarked, he is the only one who has dropped his tail. Now, these people, they see this half clad, half mad, uh, odd looking person show up and make this strange statement. And they're all gentlemen. They're all well educated and high placed people. So, what would they think? At this, people laughed. But Keshab knew better. Keshab said to them, "Don't laugh. There must be some meaning in his words." Keshab recognized that this is not an ordinary person. Let us ask him. Thereupon I said to Keshab, "The tadpole, so long as it has not dropped its tail, lives only in the water. It cannot move about on dry land, but as soon as it drops its tail, it hops out on the bank. Then it can live both on land and in water. Likewise, as long as a man has not dropped his tail of ignorance, he can live only in the water of the world. But when he drops his tail, that is to say, when he attains the knowledge of God, then he can roam about as a free soul, or live as a householder if he likes." Now, does this mean that Sri Ramakrishna considered Keshab to be a free soul, a Jivan Mukta, God-realized soul? I don't think so. But he considered Keshab to be highly spiritual and highly genuine, authentic person, and we had tremendous respect and love for him. We don't find him call him a God-realized soul or Ishvara Koti or anything like that. So he put him in a different category. Plus, he was a householder, and he did have the duties to perform and family to look after and everything. So he was in a different category, you can say. Mahimacharan and the other devotees remained spellbound, listening to the master's words. Master, once I visited Devendranath Tagore with Mathur Babu. This Devendranath, the father of Rabindranath, and he was the founder of this Adi Brahmo Samaj. Yeah? We can say that his name Mohan Roy. Mohan Roy. He was really the original inspiration behind all of this, but I think we can say that Devendranath was the one who really started as an organization. So he was considered to be part of the aristocracy of Kolkata at that time, and very well placed, and they were big landlords. They had property in different places and powerful people, but also considered to be a very religious, spiritual type of person, and very, very well thought of, with very good reputation. I said to Mathur, "I've heard that Devendranath Tagore thinks of God. I should like to see him." This was Tagore's style at that time, that if he heard of anybody who was considered to be a person of either spirituality, or in the case of Vidyasagar, someone who was a great philanthropist or something like that, Sri Ramakrishna would like to meet them. "So I've heard that Devendranath Tagore thinks of God. I should like to see him." "All right," said Mathur, "I will take you to him. We were fellow students in the Hindu college, and I'm very friendly with him." We went to Devendra's house. Mathur and Devendra had not seen each other for a long time. Devendra said to Mathur, "You have changed a little. You have grown fat around the stomach." Mathur said, referring to me, "He has come to see you. He was always mad about God." So Hridoy did it at one point, would take him to all of these places, and Mathur also would do it sometimes. Yeah, it was Hridoy who took him to Keshab. And now we have Mathur taking him here. I wanted to see Devendra's physical marks and said to him, now Sri Ramakrishna had some special insight into the nature of people, some power to observe their physical marks, and that gets some insight into their character and spiritual nature. Yeah, sometimes just looking at them, sometimes he would say, "Let me feel the weight of your arm." Yeah, he would weigh that. But he used to say, just looking at people, he could see their insides as if one is looking inside of a glass case that had different objects inside. So he said to him, "Let me see your body." He pulled up his shirt, and I found that he had a very fair skin tinted red. His hair had not yet turned gray. At the outset, I noticed a little vanity in Devendra. So the things that Thakur always looked for were, does he have pride? Is he egotistical? Either if it's a pundit about his learning, or if it's an important person about his wealth, he wanted to see, did they have any pride, and did they have any detachment? These seem to be the two most important things, especially with these pundits. Do they have any viveka and vairagya? At the outset, I noticed a little vanity in Devendra. And isn't that natural? He had such wealth, such scholarship, such name and fame. Noticing that streak of vanity, I said to Mathur, well, is vanity the outcome of knowledge or ignorance? Can a knower Brahmin have such a feeling as, I am a scholar, I am a jnani, I am rich? So his initial impression of Devendra is good and bad. He's not overly impressed, but also he's not saying that, he's saying it's natural. Almost anybody, how can they not have some feeling of pride when they're so highly thought of in society? While I was talking to Devendra, I suddenly got into that state of mind in which I can see a man as he really is. So it wasn't that Thakur always could see the inside of a person, always know what they're thinking. If he wanted to, he could do it, or else sometimes he would just go into that state. Whether it planned or not planned, sometimes just he will always, of course, explain that mother put me in that state. So here he says, very interesting, that in the beginning, he himself had to examine him to look at the marks and everything, but then later, it's just automatically he could see the inside. So he entered into that state. I got into that state, suddenly, in that state of mind in which I can see a man as he really is. I was convulsed with laughter inside. In that state, I regard scholars and book learned as mere straw. If I see that a scholar has no discrimination and renunciation, viveka and vairagya, these are the two things. Yeah. He wanted to see that the humility. So I regard him as worthless straw. I see that he is like a vulture, which soars high, but fixes its look on the charnel pit down below. Yeah, I mentioned earlier that many of the pundits that came to Sri Ramakrishna were unusually spiritual people, good people. Pundits were known for being very proud of their knowledge, always quoting verses, Sanskrit, and things like that. But the ones that came to him, either because they were drawn to him or through contact with him, or just their natural qualities, most of them were very, very good people. Some renounced everything after meeting Sri Ramakrishna. I found that Devendra had combined both yoga and bhoga in his life, plus the children. How many? Not just Rabindranath, but how many in all the fields of music, art. I started a whole school of art, and of course religion and everything. They were a really remarkable family. He had a number of children, all young. Yeah, so Thakur perhaps saw Rabindranath at that time as a young boy. We know that Rabindranath saw Sri Ramakrishna. I believe he came one time to Dakshineswar. Huh? Does anybody remember that, Satubhai? I think so. I think it's recorded here.
Yeah, I think he was.
One time he came to Thakur's room. I think so. but no conversation or not much. No. The family physician was there. Thus, you see, though he was a jnani, yet he was preoccupied with worldly life. Yeah, he had. What could he do? He had a big family. He had a lot of children and a lot of things to look after. I said to him, "You are the King Janaka of this Kali Yuga." And then Thakur quotes the song that he liked very much. Holding to one as well as the other, he drank his milk from a brimming cup. Brimming cup. That means holding to God and holding to the world. I've heard that you live in the world and think of God. So I've come to see you. See, Thakur would present himself as just nobody. Just humble. I've come to learn, to seek, and we hear that you're a great man. It's my great privilege to come and see you. He would come like that. Please tell me something about God. He recited some text from the Vedas. He said, "This universe is like a chandelier, and each living being is a light in it." Yeah, this is the light shining through each and every person. This is a nice idea. Once meditating in the Panchavati, I too had a vision like that. I found his words agreed with my vision, and I thought he must be a very great man. I asked him to explain his words. He said, God has created men to manifest his own glory. Otherwise, who could know this universe? Everything becomes dark without the lights and the chandelier. One cannot even see the chandelier itself. Yeah, this is always an interesting question. If we try to conceive of this universe before there were any living beings, if we take a scientific point of view of evolution, then what is our conception of an object without a perceiver of the object? Yeah. We know when it comes to things like sound that if nobody hears it, is there any sound? We say the potential for sound, but unless somebody hears it, it's a tree falls in the forest, it's not making any noise unless there's someone to hear it. Is there a universe without anybody to perceive it? So we'll say, well, God himself has to be the one upholding it and perceiving it and everything. But if we think that no one in this human realm or this animal realm to perceive anything, then the universe remains unknown from at least the human point of view. We assume still exists, but remains unknown somehow. We talked a long time. Devendra was pleased and said to me, "You must come to our Brahmo Samaj festival." And that, I said, depends on the will of God. You can see the state of my mind. There's no knowing when God will put me into a particular state. So now he's revealing a little bit about himself. The mere fact that Mathur Babu brought him to Devendranath, that will indicate that he said Mathur is not going to take just nobody there. Mathur is also a big man. So he knows that this is somebody special, at least in the eyes of Mathur Babu. So Thakur says, you can see the state of my mind. There's no knowing when God will put me in a particular state. Devendra insisted, no, you must come. So he recognized something special about him. But put on your cloth and wear a shawl over your body. Now, we see pictures of Sri Ramakrishna. If it's wintertime, he would wear a shirt, just because of keep his body warm. He had no sense of proper decor and what's considered to be civil and courteous and all of that. If it's the hot season, then he'll just wear his wearing cloth, and he'll throw one quarter over his shoulder. We see that all over the photographs and everything. That was his style. So he must have come to Devendranath at that time, just wearing the dhoti in the bottom. So bare bodied on top. but put on your cloth and wear a shawl over your body. Even a shawl he had to have. Someone might say something unkind about your untidiness, and that would hurt me. Now, a very disingenuous statement by Devendranath. Yes, he means that I won't like it. He doesn't care that Thakur's feelings will be hurt, that it'll look bad for the Brahmo Samaj that they've invited somebody who doesn't know how to dress properly. Maybe a tiny bit he'll feel bad if there's some criticism, but that doesn't seem to be the real reason for that statement. No, I replied, I cannot promise that. I cannot be a babu. Devendra and Mathur left. The very next day, Mathur received a letter from Devendra forbidding me to go to the festival. Yes, he wrote that it would be ungentlemanly of me not to cover my body with the shawl. All left. It would have looked odd because he would have been the only one there dressed like that. But still, India knows about holy people. They know that they don't have to follow the same standards as others. But they were proud of their standing. They were proud of the fact that the British people respected them. They had this kind of unspoken relationship with the British.
Keshab never had any problem with that.
Keshab didn't care. Yeah. No, he didn't care because when Thakur went so many times to these Brahmo festivals and things like that, yeah, if it's a hot weather, he's not wearing a shirt. He would only wear it if he felt cold. Yeah, so Keshab didn't seem to mind at all. Yeah. Keshab was different. Yeah. We don't really hear this Devendra. He was a great scholar and the organizer and everything, but we don't really, at least my understanding, that we don't place him in the category of a great spiritual soul, high spiritual soul. I don't know.
Yeah. It's called Maharshi.
He's called Maharshi. Thakur laughed when he heard that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Raja Rohanmoy. They give these titles to people. Yeah. He was not considered a real Maharshi. Yeah.
His father was known as the Prince Dwarkanath.
Yeah. They would give all these titles to things. Yeah. There's another big man, Captain. Though a man of the world, he is a great lover of God. Talk to him sometime. He knows the Vedas, the Vedanta, the Bhagavata, the Gita, and the Adhyatma Ramayana, and other scriptures by heart. You will find that out when you talk to him. He'll say a lot about him, but I wanted to just read a couple of interesting things about this captain. This is just, there's a little small write-up on some of the people that we meet in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna in the appendix of the Bengali version. And this captain, his real name was Vishwanath Upadhyay. And he's called here a householder disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. Yeah. So this is a big thing. Yeah, that he would accept Sri Ramakrishna. Thakur would accept him. And we don't know anything, of course, how Thakur gave initiation, who was his disciple, we don't really know. But he had that reverence for Sri Ramakrishna. Yeah. And so he was a great knower of the scriptures, a great karma yogi, Brahmin, of course. His father was a big shot in the army, and he used to do this puja and everything. And but this is the interesting thing was that prior to meeting Sri Ramakrishna, he saw him in a dream. He had a vision of Sri Ramakrishna in a dream, and that's why the very first time that he saw him, he could recognize him. So this is a rare thing. This is a very, very special thing. So this I wanted to mention specially that the captain. He had tremendous reverence and regard for Sri Ramakrishna. And Thakur will say many things about him. He, meaning captain, has great piety. Once I was going along a street in Baranagar, and he held an umbrella over my head. See, he was a big man. This captain was, He was Nepali. He worked for the Nepali government. The captain was actually some official title that was bestowed upon him for the king must have done it. Yeah, the king of Nepal, just to show how much importance he was held.
He was a lawyer of the Nepali king.
And constantly had to go to Kolkata and meet with the government officials and things like that. Yeah. I met his great grandson. He came here. Yeah. Yes. He came once and introduced himself. Do you know about this captain from the Kotamadato? I said, yes, of course. He said, he was my great grandfather. Yeah. And he said that they had started a Kali temple in Kathmandu. Yeah. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it or if it's still functioning or anything. But I also met a relative, Rani Rashmani. Yeah. Went to Tribuka one time. Great grandchild or something. Yeah. Every once in a while, these people will show up, interesting people. He invites me to his house and shows me great attention. He fans me, massages my feet. See, this is tremendous humility for somebody of such a high stature, and people would shake in front of someone like him. Such power that he had. He fans me, massages my feet, and feeds me with various dishes. Once at his house, I went into samadhi in the toilet. So this will be not the way we pictured the bathroom. He took care of me there, though he's so particular about his orthodox, he was very orthodox Brahmin, about his orthodox habits. So he didn't show any abhorrence for the place. That means to go into this latrine area. He has many expenses. He supports his brothers who live in Benares. His wife was a miserly woman at first. Now, she is so burdened by the expenses of the family that she cannot spend all the money she would like to. Captain's wife said to me, he doesn't enjoy worldly life. See, he really had some deep type of spirituality. That is why he once said he would renounce the world. True, every now and then he expresses that desire. Yeah, even though the percentage of people in India who will take to monastic life is very small, that ideal is very much alive in India, and all the old scriptures and everything, and the Shankaracharya tradition and everything, Ramanuja tradition, everything. So it is a part of the mindset of people, this and reverence for monastic life. Captain was born in a family of devotees. His father was a soldier. I've heard that on the battlefield he would worship Shiva with one hand and hold a naked sword in the other. Captain is a strong upholder of orthodox conventions. Because of my visiting Keshab Chandra Sen, he stopped coming here for a month. He said that Keshab had violated the social conventions. He dined with the English, had married his daughter into another caste, and had lost his own caste. Yeah, Keshab, of course, he got into a lot of trouble for the marriage of his daughter. But other than that, first of all, he wasn't a Brahmin, so the restrictions weren't as great on him with regard to who he dines with and everything else. And he went to England. He met the Queen. How could he not eat with these people and do things like that? So only those who were very orthodox would hold this against him. This captain was very orthodox. I said to Captain, what do I care for such things? Keshab chants the name of God. Yeah, Thakur's idea was that if someone is a devotee of God, there's no caste consideration at all. This was his salute. You want to get rid of caste, everyone becomes a devotee, sincere devotee, then the idea of caste will disappear. Otherwise, you don't do it forcefully, these things. There's also the Chaitanya Deva. They also had that tradition. Yeah.
Is that referred in the line, like in the song, Nishkarana Bhaktasarana Taji Jati Kuloma?
Yeah. Especially with even in his own life, that he had no pride in being a. That's why he took off the sacred thread. He said, "This is a sign of pride that I'm a Brahmin." So he removed it at that time. Yeah. So he was free from all of those things. Yeah, the Brahmins in India uh, were really held to the high standard, looked upon as kind of special people, the ones who were keeping dharma. They had that role to play, so they were highly respected. Not always deserved, but still, that whole convention and this whole idea that they're born into this role to be protectors of dharma and everything. So they were generally looked up to. So the pride would come, of course, and the higher the caste, the more restrictions there were. More, yeah. So they had to be more careful about who they mixed with, who they ate with. Even things like not taking gifts. We see how Thakur's father was so careful about all these things. Yeah. I said to Captain Sri Ramakrishna, "What do I care for such things? Keshab chants the name of God, so I go to him to hear about God. I eat only the plum. What do I care about the thorns?" So that means these are all superficial things. So he ate with the British people. So what? These are secondary things. But Captain remained stubborn. He said to me, "Why do you seek Keshab?" I answered him rather sharply, "But I don't go to him for money." See, part of his job, he earned a good salary, would be going to meet with government people, that meant British peoples. I go there to hear the name of God. And how is it that you visit the viceroy's house? This would be British. He's a Malacha. How can you be in his company? That silenced him a little. But he is a great devotee. When he worships, he performs arati with camphor. When he recites hymns, he becomes a totally different person. He becomes absorbed. To Mahimacharan. Now we get a very interesting discussion about Jnana Yoga. Now, when Sri Ramakrishna talks about Jnana Yoga, and when he talks about according to Vedanta, he has a certain idea in his mind. It's the way we understand Jnana Yoga uh, is much more wider type of interpretation. For Sri Ramakrishna, it's mostly this idea of this unreality of the world and the impersonal aspect of God. God has no form. This is the impersonal absolute that doesn't allow much worship of the personal God. Uh, this is the context in which he talks about or Vedantic reasoning. This neti, all of that. That's that context. Uh, if we think about Jnana Yoga in terms of Upanishads, then this idea of impersonal absolute, this is the dominant idea. We don't have maybe just in seed form this idea of worship of a personal God. There's not much of that at all. It's really impersonal absolute. And then this idea of the unreality of the world, this comes in later. That also we don't find in the Upanishads or the Gita or anything. But that becomes a prominent idea later. And this is Thakur's mind when he talks about this Vedantic reasoning. So to Mahimacharan, in the light of Vedantic reasoning, the world is illusory, unreal as a dream. So this is this Jagat Mithya, this idea of Mithya, and how this is interpreted will make a tremendous difference in how one lives in the world. There'll be certain, especially monks, who will take this almost literally and will have nothing to do with anybody. They will withdraw from society. They won't care too much about social conditions or anything. They'll live alone. They'll just try to realize the nature of the self, and that'll be enough for them. Uh, So this becomes somewhat of an ideal for Sri Ramakrishna. Uh, his idea of Mithya is a little bit different, and he'll always emphasize anitya. This world is transitory, and this question of time, everything is just going in this flow of time. There's nothing really to hold. This life is going quickly, like that type of idea. He accepts that, and he thinks that's an important idea. If we take literally that this world is a dream, then uh, we even our body is a dream body. So Tagore says, you say the world is unreal, you have to say you're also unreal. The people you're talking to are also unreal. So even this Mandukya Upanishad, which is considered to be the height of Advaita Vedanta, will make a very clear distinction between the waking state and the dream state, that the dream state is private, that we experience things almost as if within our head. This is the idea of the private. It's not a shared universe, as opposed to the waking state. So even this idea of the unreality of the world is not even a question in this Mandukya Upanishad. Everything has to do with the self as the witness. And this witness of the three different states. How we take these states, if we literally, if we talk about no difference between the waking state and the dream state, from a experiential point of view, it's 100% true. This is phenomenological point of view, that I cannot make any distinction between my experience of the world now and my experience of the world in the dream state. From the point of view of experience, my assumption is that there are actual objects outside. There actually is perception taking place. When I wake up from a dream, my experience is that there was no perception. There was no outside object. It was just a dream. But at the time of the dream and at the time of the waking state, we really can't make any distinction. It's that sense of reality is the same. When we wake up, then we realize that it was a dream. But we don't have the opposite experience, that when we have a dream, we remember the waking state as if we had awakened from a dream. that we don't have. If we had that, then we'd really be confused. Yeah, there's a statement, I think, in this Tao, Lao Tzu, that he said, I had a dream that I was a butterfly, something like that. And this dream was so real to me that when I woke up, I had to ask myself, am I a man who dreamt I was a butterfly, or am I a butterfly dreaming that I'm a man? So just because the experience of when in the middle of the dream, it seems 100% real. The second that we start to think, oh, it's only a dream, generally that's the end of the dream. We wake up. I've mentioned this before. When I was a college student studying philosophy, that I was obsessed with this idea of dreams. And the very first paper that I ever wrote was The Reality of the Dream State. Now, remember, I knew nothing about Vedanta, nothing. This was all Western philosophy. Yeah. But if we analyze it, that there's nothing to distinguish the dream state from the waking state while we're in the dream state. Yeah, while we're in the dream state, it seems 100% real. We're seeing things as if these eyes are functioning, as if there's an actual chair and all of that. When we wake up, then somebody says, well, you saw a chair. How did you see the chair? Because of your eyes? No, because I dreamt it. That's all. There's no explanation in terms of anything like that, as opposed to the waking state. Now, if we wake up from this waking state and look back upon it as a dream, that's a different story. But from this point of view. So anyhow, this is the conversation now to Mahimacharan. In the light of Vedantic reasoning, the world is illusory, unreal as a dream. The Supreme Soul is the witness. So this is when we analyze the three states of consciousness, as Mandukya Upanishad, we find this is the emphasis. There's no discussion about is the dream state real or unreal, is the waking state real or unreal. It's all about the one and the same witness observing all the different states of consciousness. And the fact that our sense of I can easily be transferred to the dream body that is not tied to this awakening state body. That's the emphasis, not on any metaphysical status of the world. That's not a question there. So it says the Supreme Soul is the witness of the three states of waking, dream, and deep sleep. So they're perfectly in line with this Vedantic reasoning of who is the witness of the three states of consciousness. These things are in your line of thought. He knows this, Mahimacharan likes these things. The waking state is only as real as the dream. And sometimes he'll say the dream state is as real as the waking state to the jnani. And both can be true. Let me tell you a story that agrees with your attitude. There was a farmer who lived in the countryside. He was a real jnani. He earned his living by farming. He was married, and after many years, a son was born to him, whom he named Haru. The parents loved the boy dearly. This was natural, since he was the one precious gem in the family. On account of his religious nature, the farmer was loved by the villagers. One day he was working in the field when a neighbor came and told him that Haru had had an attack of cholera. The farmer at once returned home and arranged for treatment for the boy. But Haru died. The other members of the family were grief-stricken, but the farmer acted as if nothing had happened. He consoled his family and told them that grieving was futile. Then he went back to his field. On returning home, he found his wife weeping even more bitterly. She said to him, "How heartless you are. You haven't shed one tear for the child." The farmer replied quietly, "Shall I tell you why I haven't wept? I had a very vivid dream last night. I dreamt I'd become a king. I was the father of 8 sons and was very happy with them. Then I woke up. Now I am greatly perplexed. Should I weep for those 8 sons or for this one Haru?" Then Thakur explains, the farmer was a jnani. Therefore, he realized that the waking state is as unreal as the dream state. There is only one eternal substance, and that is the Atman. So this is Thakur's explanation of this idea of Jagat Mithya, what it means for the jnani, this idea. Now he'll give his own view. He says, but for my part, I accept everything. Turiya, and also the 3 states of waking, dream, and deep sleep, I accept all 3 states. Now, the Advaitic idea that the self, there's no ego connected with the self is the pure witness of the 3 states of consciousness, is absolutely accepted by Sri Ramakrishna. That from that point of view, that we can say he was an Advaitin through and through. Only this idea of this world is something to be dismissed as of little importance. That he didn't like. He liked this idea that this world has no substance to it. This world can't satisfy us. This world is fleeting. It'll go. Don't try to find your pleasure in this world. It is there's something hollow about it. Don't become attached to it. This was his emphasis. He didn't care much for these metaphysical doctrines, really. He was much more practical than that. A doctrine for him was a path. Sometimes I think the most important statement that Thakur ever made was a 2-word sentence. Maut pot. There's all of these philosophical doctrines are simply paths to God. They're not the ultimate truth or anything. If one works for you, then follow that path. He didn't care about these quarrels among the different schools.
One question, sir.
Yeah.
About the mark, the path, like when a path like is they considered is a path, anybody can come up with something like so he can claim okay, there is my philosophy is this.
See, Sri Ramakrishna was very, very liberal. Even there's Kartavaja and others. He said, even that's a path. There may be some people who, through that path, if they're very sincere and genuine, can also realize God, but don't go there. He said it's not a clean path. Yeah, we don't take this to mean that anybody can believe anything, and that there should be some authentic tradition that people follow. But he was very, very much more liberal about these things than even his disciples. There's a very nice section in the Great Master where Sharat Maharaj, Swami Sharanandi, he's saying that we ourselves used to look down so much on this Kartavaja sect, that doing the Mahimacharan and everything like that, and how surprised we were when Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, this is also a path. He was so friendly with his Vaishnav Charan, but he did not recommend it for anybody. But he said possibly some can also realize God through that. There's a nice conversation that took place. One of the ship voyages that Swamiji took. I don't remember going to India or coming back or something. There was one Mormon preacher there, and they're having this argument and everything. And Swamiji is saying, "You believe that someone can have 4 wives? So our highest ideal is to remain with this monastic life." All these different differences and everything. And then Swamiji says to him, "Why not come to India and preach there?" So he was shocked. He said, "You don't agree with any of these things. You're saying that I should go and preach there." He said, "Yes, there may be still some people who haven't found a path through all of the things available, that this may be something that will be helpful for them." How liberal he was. Yeah. So, yeah, when we say all religions are true, we have to have some discrimination. Yeah, and anything that will be immoral, unethical, and harmful to people, of course, we have to be able to distinguish it.
That was our
Yeah. So Thakur says, but for my part, I accept everything. Turiya and also the 3 states of waking, dream, and deep sleep. I accept all 3 states. I accept all. Brahman and also Maya, the universe, and its living beings. If I accepted less, I should not get the full weight. Now, we have this doctrine. This is a bell fruit doctrine. There's a tendency to say that Thakur is talking about Ramanuja here. This is Vishishtadvaita Vedanta. Other places, actually, Thakur will say that. Towards the end, in Kashipur, Narendra actually asked him, there's some reference to this qualified non-dualism of Ramanuja. And Narendra apparently doesn't know anything about it. So he asked Ramakrishna, what is that doctrine? And then he explains it in terms of the bell fruit. But I think that Thakur has a broader interpretation of these things. Here, when he says that I accept all these states, that he's not saying necessarily that we have to accept, see, the idea of the bell fruit, all the seeds are like different jivas. Does that mean that Sri Ramakrishna accepts this idea of plurality of jivas? That each is real and separate and independent, but they can all achieve that state of liberation. Does he accept that idea? Of course, he doesn't mind if people believe that, but much more often he'll explain what is the jiva, that one sun reflected into the container. And that reflection has no reality other than the fact that it's a reflection of the sun. So I don't think, although some people take it away, even M seems to think that Thakur like this will follow this Ramanuja idea. But we know Holy Mother said Thakur was Advaita. I think that this means that Thakur accepted this Paramartika and Vyavaharika as equally valid. That the highest, from the highest point of view and from this relative point of view, that he accepted the reality and the appearance both. We can almost say he accepted the snake and the rope both. What is the snake? The snake is real, but because it's the reality of the snake is the rope. It's appearing that way. So, and this idea of Maya, for Sri Ramakrishna, he saw it mostly in terms of Shakti. It was a real power that belongs to Brahman. And that power belonging to Brahman is its conception of Divine Mother. This is so now the devotee will ask, the full weight, how is that? All left. Master, Brahman is qualified by the universe and its living beings. This is exactly what it means, this doctrine of Ramanuja. It means that there are Visheshas, Vishishtadvaita. Means that there are certain qualities, that Brahman is really Saguna Brahman, is the essential aspect of Brahman. For the non-dualist, Nirguna Brahman is essential. Saguna Brahman will be through Maya. But for them, that the Brahman really has attributes, and these attributes are of two kinds. One is external, this universe. One is internal, jivas. So this is the doctrine. So Brahman is qualified by the universe and its living beings. At the beginning, while following the method of not this, one has to eliminate the universe and its living beings. Now he's bringing in Advaita Vedanta. This is the Advaita sadhana, where we try to distinguish that which is Nitya and Anitya, that which is the seer and the seen. We know all of these things. That which is there's this pure consciousness and what is an object for consciousness. But as long as I consciousness remains, one cannot but feel that it is God himself who has become everything. He alone has become the 24 cosmic principles. So this is why I say, for Sri Ramakrishna, these are not absolute philosophies. That as long as one has the feeling of ego, one will look upon the world in this particular way. When that feeling of ego disappears, then everything is different. So this idea of the ego for Sri Ramakrishna is nothing absolute. Like the stick lying on the surface of the water, this oneness will be this. The ocean is not at all affected by the stick on top. It gives the impression, gives the feeling of separation. For the followers of qualified non-dualism, the separation is real. So that's why I say I don't think we have to take this that literally he's following this Ramanuja, but he's saying as long as the stick is there, then the division is real. It's not absolute, but it's not something to be dismissed. This is the world we live in. We live in this world of duality. This is why Swamiji all the ways that everything was seeing the one in the many. This is variety, the unity in the midst of variety. So Sri Ramakrishna accepted both. He would say Nitya and Lila. There was another nice conversation where M says to Sri Ramakrishna, but this Lila has come from this Nitya, the absolute relative. And Sri Ramakrishna says, no, both are real. Both are real. Now, his conception of everything turns on our definition of real. If we take real to mean unchanging, then of course this world is not. But if we take it to be, if it's the manifestation of divinity, and divinity is real, then it's real from that point of view. So we can accept the reality of the world, still understand this most important distinction between the seer and the seen, between that which is of substance and that which is fleeting, of the pure subject and everything else being object. We can have that perfect understanding of all of that and not bother too much about this metaphysical status of the world. When a man speaks of the essential part of the bell fruit, he means its flesh only and not the seeds and the shell. Those are discarded. If we want to make some sherbet, we have to take the hard shell out, we remove the seeds, and then we make a nice drink out of it. But if he wants to speak of the total weight of the fruit, it will not do for him to weigh only the flesh. Now, Advaita Vedanta will say that the weight is exactly the same. That you eliminate the infinite from the infinite remains. that you consider the wave in the ocean. It doesn't add anything to the weight of the ocean. It's just the manifestation of the ocean. So there's a little distinction that Ramanuja will have here. This is why, the famous verse in the Kathopanishad, like pure water poured into water, that the dualists will say, but the amount of water is greater now. The whole point for Advaita Vedanta is it's just merged there. They won't take it in that. Anyhow, this is the scope that we have to interpret things a little differently. Anyhow, let me just finish this because we're getting late here. But as long as I consciousness remains, one cannot but feel that it is God himself who has become everything. He alone has become the 24 cosmic principles. What happens when I consciousness dissolves, then what is. One cannot say anything about it. Thakur says over and over again, beyond mind and speech, that mukhe bola jaye na. One cannot explain that. When a man speaks of the essential, did I read that? He must accept the whole thing, seeds and shell and flesh. Seeds and shell and flesh belong to one and the same fruit. Yeah, then he says the Nitya and the Lila belong to the same reality. Yeah, substance and attribute, the thing in itself and the thing as it appears to us. We may say we're misreading it, but still, what we're misreading is the thing. Therefore, I accept everything, the relative as well as the absolute, Nitya and Lila. I don't explain away the world as Maya. Were I to do that, I should get short weight. So he's not exactly the same meaning that Ramanuja has for it, but we won't experience this world. We won't experience the joy in this world. We won't have feeling for other people, experience the pain of other people if we dismiss everything as a dream. I think this is more the idea. Okay, so we'll. They're actually, they're called Vishishtadvaita, as if they're Advaitans. Actually, only the Advaitans are Advaitans. It's really dualistic from the point of view of internal distinction. Not that there's a Brahman, Sankhya, the Brahman and Prakriti, Purusha, Prakriti, two different things. This Brahman alone exists, but within this Brahman, we have this distinction between substance and attribute. Okay, so we'll stop here. We're in the middle of page 652. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukam Bhattata Vigraham Vai Yeshavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namama. We bow our heads before Sri Ramakrishna, who is stainless, of infinite nature, whose heart melts in sympathy for his devotees, who is an embodiment of the divine and the Supreme Lord, and ever worthy of our worship. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So, a reminder to everyone that we have a visiting Swami from Ireland with us, Swami Shanta Vratanandi. He'll be speaking on Sunday, so please try to come if you can. Otherwise, you can watch on the Zoom. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So, stopping on page 652. Yeah. Let me just.